All right, let's. Good morning, everyone. If I haven't said hello to you directly, and hello, anyone watching the recording. It's good to see you too. Let's bring up our philosopher for today. So, yeah, today it's a philosophy one. Ooh, we do one of these a month, and on the flip side, every 2 weeks we do a big ideas. But this one is definitely about a philosopher. And today we've got a relatively modern philosopher. Ooh, interesting. Hannah Arendt. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. Arendt. I think it's Arendt. But yeah, anyway, born in 1906, died in 1975, lived through some pretty, let's say, interesting, but also horrific things. And yeah, it's all about her. Well, in fact, we could do a lot. Like all these philosophers, we could talk a lot about a lot of stuff. Hannah wrote a lot of work over her life. But today we're focusing on her concept of the modern world, what that modern world is, and some of the problems with it, or maybe solutions to it. Your plant fell and died. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm glad the turtle's fine. Cool. The water gods are very good, Hamza. Yeah. When booking. Oh, I am Brea, but I'm only doing classics. I'm not doing religion this year, but I am hoping to do it next year. It just, I haven't got the room in my timetable. So RS next year for 2 years, and then classics starting this September. There you go. That's A levels, if anyone else was wondering. Yeah. So yeah, Hannah Arendt is who we're looking at today, and her idea of the modern. The modern, whether it's good or bad. She is an interesting woman because, well, mainly because of her interesting writing, but also because she lived through some pretty horrific times, and that definitely flavors her philosophy, as you would imagine, as it should do. So today we're going to start off with the idea of being Jewish in a Nazi world, which, as you can imagine, not great. Then we're going to have a look at her concepts of the loss of history, world alienation, earth alienation, the rise of the social, and animal laborance. Animal laborance, yeah. And the banality of evil, which is probably her most famous, snippet, thing. And then we're going to end, because all that's a little bit heavy, I must say, as we'll see. Then we're going to end with some positivity, because, well, we've got to have some positivity somewhere. How come I don't have this philosophy class on a Monday? Well, because the philosophy class is it's the class that I take the longest and to do. It takes a long time to make these ones, much longer than doing my standard ones, because I've got to do a lot of reading and then try and understand what I've read. And I mean, reading philosophy is wonderful and it's very fun, but it's very, very slow. At least it is for me, because I read and then I have to reread, and then I have to read the next bit, and then try and force the two together, and then try and make it in a way that actually is understandable by you guys. Not to say that you guys don't understand things, but to make it fit into an hour with some pretty pictures. Yeah. So I don't do them every week. I do them every other week, because otherwise I would never do anything else, basically. They do like using long words. That's right, Brett. And Arendt is a bit like Wittgenstein or Jung. When doing those, you find that even when people are writing about them in English, they use the German. So I've got to work out what the German means, and then understand what actually English people who are using that German mean, because they don't always mean the same thing as German people do. So that's always fun too. So there you go. Let's jump in with Jewish in a Nazi world, and we'll work from there. Just to say, our photo that we're starting with here, taken in 1933, in the year that Adolf Hitler rose to power in Germany. Hannah Arendt was a Jewish woman living in Germany in 1933. So you can imagine, that's probably why she's not smiling too hard, I guess. It's not a great time. So here we go. Some pretty pictures or horrific pictures, depending on how you look at it. The colors are nice, but that's about all we can say about it. Um, yes, one person. Oh no, Hamza. So we have a different person every week, every other week. So we don't do a whole 6 lessons on one person. Although I should say we're going into a bit of a theme at the moment, with an exception of next time, I suppose. But coming up for the next, over the summer, our focus is very much in these lessons going to be political philosophy. So we're looking at political philosophers, of which Hannah is certainly one, but we're also in the big ideas going to be looking at different political forms of government and political ideas. So we're going to do one on anarchy, we're going to do one on communism, one on democracy, one on totalitarianism. So we're going to get used to the political side for a while, and then we'll flip to something else, I guess. So yeah, we've got 2 pictures here. We've got, a famous image of Nazis marching along, holding their Nazi signs with their swastikas and all that. Hurrah. Fairies are anarchists, that's true. And then on the right, we've got a bit of Nazi propaganda, the evil Jew. And you can see here the stereotypes, the very dangerous and horrible, evil stereotypes that were used for Jewish people in Germany at the time that Arendt was growing up and living. So we see this Jewish caricature. You can tell he's Jewish because he's kind of got a scraggly beard, whereas proper Germans, as they would say, the Nazis, would have clean-shaven faces. He also has a nose, a large nose, which of course is a nonsense stereotype as well. In one hand, he is holding a map of the USSR to show that all Jewish people are traitors and they side with the Russians. He's got some kind of, I think that's some kind of horrible whip or weapon in his hand as well. I'm not entirely sure what that is. And then in his other hand, he's got a whole load of gold coins, which is, they're body shaming him and just being completely horrible. So the stereotypes that the Nazis used about Jewish people were they were greedy and slimy and dirty and sneaky and communist and all this kind of stuff, which of course, none of that really applies to most Jewish people. Yeah, I'm sure there are some who like money too much, but then I'm sure there are many Nazis who like money too much. So it's not really something to make a stereotype out of, is it? No, Hamza, no sheep, no. So this is the world that Arendt grew up in. She had to deal with, she, by the time 1933 came around, she was in her 20s, and she had to watch as her country that she had lived in all her life started getting more and more hostile towards Jewish people. Laws came in. Thank you, 27. Laws came in. Telling her, saying that Jewish people are not allowed to marry non-Jewish people. Jewish people eventually lose their passports. The Jewish names are scraped off of the war memorials for World War I, as if they were never there and they didn't help. Eventually, Jewish people get sacked from all public jobs. You can't be a teacher or a doctor or someone working for the government if you're Jewish. And things get worse and worse and worse, until eventually, of course, we hit the Holocaust, which is where the Nazis try to physically destroy, wipe out the Jewish population. And they very nearly succeed in Europe, places like Germany and Poland and Holland and France and wherever they can find Jewish people. But luckily, Arendt sees the way the world is going, and she escapes Germany before all the really terrible stuff kicks off. Just the pretty terrible stuff, like the terrible, not the uber terrible. And she manages to escape into France. Now, if you know anything about World War II, that's maybe not the best place to escape to, because of course, in 1939, the Germans, the Nazis, they conquer France. So now she finds herself, whoops, oh no, I got away from the Germans and now I've got to get away again. And she does. She gets away to America, where she lives in New York City for pretty much the rest of her life. But she's very, she may have escaped the very worst of the Holocaust herself, but certainly members of her family didn't, and people that she knew, and she saw it all happening, and the death of eventually 6 million Jewish people. Being Jewish is a religion? Yeah, but being Jewish is a religion. But it's not just a religion. It gets a bit complicated, I suppose, because being Jewish can also be a word to describe your ethnicity. So there were plenty of Jewish people who got killed by the Nazis who didn't go to synagogues and didn't pray to God and didn't do the whole, Sabbath thing and stuff. But because you only needed a grandparent to have been Jewish, and you were classed as Jewish too, and boom, you did. Was she married? Yes, she did get married later in life. I haven't looked into that in too much detail, though. I focused more on her ideas today. Now, the reason that her being Jewish in the Nazi world is important is because she's living in a time in history where everything is changing. And, the horrors that we see in the Nazi regime are pretty new. Yeah, bad things have happened in history before, of course they had. But this is on a new level, a new scale. And a lot of her philosophy is trying to work out, why is this happening? How could the German people turn on the Jewish people when they've been living together in pretty much harmony for hundreds of years? And likewise with Russia, how can the people go completely mad? How can you have this terrible Soviet dictatorship where millions of people are killed in gulags, prison camps, forced to work to death in the snow? How can that happen? How can we live in a world where this kind of stuff is going on? Why are people so mean is also another way of putting that, I suppose. Just why is people so mean? And so we're going to have a look at not everything she says, but we're going to try and get an idea of the basis, at least. Yes, I wonder what she'd think of today. She wouldn't be impressed by the attack on Ukraine, that's for sure. That goes right against what she believes in, because she would see this as a sign of totalitarianism. And, well, here we have two totalitarians. Two totalitarians. We have Adolf Hitler and mustaches, and we have Joseph Stalin, the leaders of Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, respectively. And these two take a lot of her focus, if not them directly, but in her writing, she's often talking about either they or them, or their underlings. She writes a book called Eichmann, all about one of the Nazi command. And, he was responsible for a lot of the stuff that happened in concentration camps, where Jewish people and other people were killed en masse. And she kind of, part of her argument, and again, I can't go into everything, but part of her argument is that the reason these two men came to power, and men like them, is that we've lost our sense of history. We've lost our sense of a solid reality. We're afloat as a human race, especially in the West, but that's where most of her thought is going. But she would argue probably everywhere, all over the world, we're just lost, and that means that the evil can seep in. More on evil a bit later, but yeah, the opportunity to be evil and to create regimes that would never have worked, even 100 years before this. That's the problem, because history has essentially died. And I'll explain that in a bit more in a second, but I will just catch up with the chat. Yes, Imogen here is mentioning the experiments done after World War II to try and figure out why people followed orders, even though those orders were evil. Is Milgram's experiment there? Is that the one with the electroshock? One man gives another man an electric shock, and they're told that they can keep doing it, and something ridiculous like 40% of them gave a shock that was big enough to kill someone else, even though, it was all sort of made up. But interesting to see that if you're just told to do something, you'll do it, and that comes in brilliantly with what we're about to talk about today. Do dictators have to have mustaches? I don't know. Maybe the upper lip is the visible sign of evil, and therefore you have to grow a mustache to cover up, or else everyone will put you in a bin. Maybe. I think that's unlikely, though. Am I going to do a course on the Ukraine? No, I've got no plans to. I generally teach history rather than what's happening right now. But I tend to, naturally kind of tend to mention it in quite a lot of the stuff we've done recently, because there's always parallels to draw. So, what does she mean by the loss of history? Well, she feels like we've broken away from the things that kept humans. Can I use the word sane? Sane. We'll use the word sane. I don't know if she'd use that word. But she imagines that once upon a time there was a society of human beings across the planet who had shared ideas, shared morals, shared values, and worked together as not societies, but as collectives of people held together by certain bonds. And those bonds have gone. With the 200, maybe 300 years building up towards, her time, the early 20th century, history just degrades. All those bonds that hold us together, they fall away, and we end up torn apart, lost and alone, like a child in a supermarket who has lost their parent. Now, in an extreme case, a lost child in a supermarket may just start invading the pick-a-mix and throwing it around and causing a mess. And that's kind of what Hitler and Stalin have done, sort of. Oh, you'll find out next time, Hamza. Yeah. All right. So the breakdown of history and the breakdown of human society comes in 4 stages. This is what Arendt says, and this is the core of her philosophy on the modern, I suppose. The first step, and I found this lovely bit of artwork, which I quite like. But anyway, the first step is called world alienation. This is what she calls it. That's true. That's really, but Breyer, that's a bit of foreshadowing. Breyer says it's strange because if you didn't know who they were, Hitler and Stalin, they would just look like ordinary people. They do. Yeah, they're just dudes, aren't they, really? I mean, they've got interesting moustaches, but they are just people. That's right. So yes, dogs. Yeah, they're out there. I don't know. She's probably smelled a goat or something. I don't know. I can't see her. I can just hear her. So yeah, we've got the idea of world alienation. It's the idea that once upon a time, says Arendt, the world was made up of people who shared ideas. Those ideas are made up of loads of different things. And for this, we can think about Carl Jung, if you joined me for that one. That was a while ago. But yeah, Carl Jung talked about a universal consciousness, a subconscious that connects all people together. We have similar life experiences. We look at the life in a certain way. We have similar beliefs or ideas. And that holds us together as a group of people. And she argues that this is gone. Yeah, we've been replaced, or this has been replaced, with a sense of individualism. Yeah, it's more important in modern times, says Arendt, that that we do our own thing and we express ourselves in our own way, and I don't know, think of the Disney. Yeah, think of the Disney. Go on, follow your dreams. Be who you want to be an individual. Don't follow the herd, stand out, all that kind of stuff. And she says that's a problem, because that means that we are left alone, just sort of wandering. We are untethered from each other, because if our focus is only on ourselves and fulfilling what we want and achieving our goals and stuff, then we lose that collective consciousness. We lose that ability to just act as a team. Yeah, we start acting as individuals. And of course, if you've got a football team or any sports team where everyone is trying to just be themselves and be the star, it's usually not a very good team, because the secret of a good team is working together. And that's what we've lost. And of course, because, or this can either be the cause or the effect or both of the loss of history. But she would argue that if we've lost history, then that's one of those things that causes a collective consciousness. If we understand our past and we hold that together in our heads, then, well, we're lost. Or well, no, if we hold it in our heads, we're okay. But if we don't hold it in our heads, we are lost. We just turn into a collection of individuals wandering around. So this lovely painting here it's called Collective Consciousness. And you can sort of see the people there all having this one great big interconnected thought. But of course, if we're alienated from the world, if we're alienated from what the world even is, which can happen here, if we have no collective consciousness, if no one's sure what's good, what's bad, what's left, what's right, what's black and white, then we don't really share the same world anymore. We all share our own. We can't share our own. We all inhabit our own worlds, made up by our own thoughts, often about ourselves, and instead, that's instead of having a collective world where we can work together. We can't work together in a world of alienation because we're all just singing from a different hymn sheet. So yeah, like a football team. That's right, Hamza. Did I have a lesson before this one? No, not this morning. No, just a nice bit of board building. There you go. So that's the first step. World alienation. We've lost history, and therefore we've lost a sense of community, or we've lost community, which means that we end up losing a sense of history. Both thing pretty bad. Oh, as in building the whiteboard, Brea. Yeah, not like building a board. Yeah. Good, Hamza. When is mythology? Well, I do mythology on Monday mornings. Yeah. So let's go down to the next part of this philosophy, Earth alienation. So Arendt will argue that we're not just alienated from a sort of shared sense of what the world is, but we're actually more and more alienated from our planet, from the Earth itself. The chairman of the board, nice. I don't know, Hamza. What is England doing? I don't understand. I don't know. So Earth alienation means that we have lost contact with nature in a simple way. And this is something I suppose that since her death in 1975, we've seen even more, in my opinion. But she said that at some point in history, as history was dying, we end up with a situation where humans stop caring or stop working with the environment and instead start, in the sort of best case scenario, we're just ignoring the environment. In the worst case scenario, we're actively harming it. We just don't seem to care, which I suppose goes hand in hand with world alienation. If on a level of consciousness, on a level of thought, you cannot sort of connect with other people, then this is maybe the physical representation of that. If you can't join a community, then how can you act as a part of an ecosystem on a planet? So they're throwing, plastics in the ocean. We're throwing plastics in the ocean. We're burning fossil fuels. We're chopping down trees. We are, forcing animals into extinction. And all of this is a sign of loss. I mean, obviously, it's a loss for the planet, but Arendt would say this is a loss for all of us, because we are part of the planet. And as the planet just gets ruined around us, we're going to become even less tethered to reality. So now we've lost our in-head sense of reality, and we've lost our connection with the world around us, the physical world. That's a really dangerous place to be. And if we're in that situation, then people can come along and take advantage of that. If we don't care about the world, if we don't care about creatures and the forests, then, what have we got to care about? People like Hitler and Stalin will come along and say, well, care about this and care about that, and let's care about whatever I want to care about. Follow me, because, well, you've forgotten where you are. It's kind of bleak, isn't it? So Hamza, you wouldn't say that's happening right now. Do you not think that we are messing up the planet a little bit? I don't know. Arendt would definitely say that we were, and that the fact that we're ignoring it is going to be to our own detriment. We'll end up, regretting it in the long run. But not, when modern climate change activists and stuff, when they're protesting about Earth alienation or the destruction of the planet or whatever it is, then they are going to, that they're often focused on the world and saving the world for the sake of the world, maybe. Arendt is saying here, look, we need to focus on the world for the sake of humanity, which is maybe not always an angle that's taken in modern times. Under the control of something else now, Brea. Oh, maybe. It all comes together for sure. Hamza, I'll keep that to myself. All right, so Earth alienation is the second. So we've got world alienation. We're shut off from a collective consciousness or idea of what reality is. Earth alienation, we have lost our link to the planet as natural, living, breathing, happy creatures. And then we get to the rise of the social, which I love the name of this. I hadn't realized that Arden used this phrase, but it's a wonderful phrase because it kind of, it perfectly fits with social media in a time long before social media was invented. What is the most endangered animal at this time? I don't know, hamster. I don't know. The whatever there's only one of, maybe the axolotl. I don't know. Now Imogen, so Imogen says, on the flip side, the sooner that humans die out, the sooner the earth can heal and regenerate. The earth will eventually be fine, but humans will absolutely die out. So yeah, if that's the theory, that kind of isn't Ardent's point. Yeah, she, in a sense, in this part of her philosophy, she's not caring about the planet for the planet's sake. She's caring about the planet for humans. So for her, destruction of the planet is insane because it's destroying not just our physical world where we live, but it's also destroying our, our sense of community and reality and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. That's good. Okay. Thanks, Raiden. Raiden says, is she saying that we shouldn't be an individual and be part of a group? But if we're part of a group, wouldn't that be easier for someone like Hitler to control? And that's kind of the point she's trying to make, Raiden, is that actually the way that people like Hitler work is by taking a lot of lost people and giving them something to do. Yeah, sort of showing them their version of what reality is. But if we did have more groupthink and less individualistic think, then that we wouldn't be open to that in the first place. The only reason Hitler can work is because so many people are so lost. Whereas if they had a sense of their place in nature and their place in community, then this wouldn't be a problem. That's her argument. Now, you may not agree with it, of course, but that's what she's trying to say. Yeah. I have seen an Olm, Brea. They're very cool, aren't they? Live in like caves in Austria and places. Yeah. And yes, I know there's more than one axolotl. Yeah. A lot of sad, lonely, pathetic people. Maybe, Raiden. I mean, but you may not agree with her. And, I'm going to put things forward, like I always do, from her point of view. You can say it's nonsense. That's absolutely fine. That's the point of philosophy. There's a lot of philosophers that don't agree with Arden, and there are many who do. So there you go. Yeah, so groupthink could be a real danger, couldn't it, Ray? That's true. It's a good point. Yeah, a good counterpoint. But let's see if she can dig herself out. So the next section of our 4 is the rise of the social. The way that Arden uses the term social is the idea that people today, and of course she's talking about the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, yeah, but people in her time, and I think we can put this on today, they care more about the economic and social capital, the things that are worth money or worth fame. We could say, wealth and fame, economic and social capital. They care more about that than they do public and private lives. Back in the day, people would act a certain way publicly, and then in private they might act a different way. There would be certain things that we do know about people, and there would be certain things that are kept private and secret about people. But what she saw happening in the 20th century was a breakdown, a blurring between public and private. Famous people, celebrities giving away their privacy for more social capital. People becoming more concerned with making money than looking after their own sort of public persona and things like that. Yes, Hamza. Uh, oh, thank you. Oliver says the most endangered animal is the vapuita. It must be endangered because I've never even heard of it. Cool, thank you. um, so, yeah, this blurring between public and private means that everyone's kind of focused on the wrong thing. We're in a social environment rather than what Arendt would want, which is a community. So she doesn't look at social as maybe the same way we do, or the way that common English uses it. You know, we might think about somebody being social and say, "Oh, that's really good. You know, you're a social person. You like making friends. You like talking to people. Blah blah blah." That's not how she's using it. She's saying that a social world is actually a pretty negative world. It's a world where people are all about making and consuming. That's what life is. Yeah, we want to buy more, we want to make more, we want to use more, and then we want to show other people that we are buying more and making more and using more. And we start talking about how we are worth, you know, our worth as people is based on the objects that we own, or the nice places that we eat our food, or the, you know, interesting holidays that we go on, or any of that stuff, the stuff that isn't actually, in Ardent's opinion, worthwhile. Yeah, we're more concerned with just what we have, or how famous we are, or how liked we are. And that's her idea of social. And I find that really interesting because social media, you know, I mean, some of the criticisms of social media is that it's just a lot of people taking photos of their food and showing themselves on nice days out, and, you know, showing off their new trainers or whatever, on the click of a button on Instagram, than it is, you know, actually people coming together and talking about what's important and what's useful. You know, people keeping their own privacy and having a sort of stable private life, which is, you know, a private life that you can grow and philosophize and things in, and then a public life where you can actually have meaningful relationships with people. Social media, or the social, doesn't give you either of those. It kind of destroys both. You end up showing too much and achieving very little. Yeah, that's what she would argue. And again, this is another thing. But doing that is draining and boring. Maybe, maybe, right? So yeah, this is another thing, of course, that opens the door to a breakdown of history and the rise of totalitarianism. Hmm. Um, yeah, that's a good point. Imogen says that it baffles her that we have the resources to talk. Oh, hang on, it's gone. Resources to talk to almost anyone at any time, and we do nothing, literally nothing useful with it. Yeah, and maybe, you know, I'm sure a lot of good things come out of use of social media and stuff. But yeah, there's a surprising lack of usefulness. We haven't used it to form new governmental systems, have we? Which we could do. We haven't used it to source ideas and make massive leaps forward in sort of social technology, so to speak. We kind of show each other pictures of cats, which has its own value, perhaps, but maybe not to Arendt. Yeah. Raiden doesn't want to have meaningful relationships. Interesting. Isn't that selfish? How do you mean, Hamza? Is it selfish? Is it selfish for her to think about that? Oh, for Arendt to think about that. Well, let's go to the last thing, because maybe that will bring all this together. Cats are doing the control. Oh, that's a good question. Clement Gilly asked, since she was a woman in the early 20th century, was she listened to? She was listened to. Yeah, her books were very widely read. She was sometimes criticized, but not normally for being a woman. She herself never saw herself as a feminist. She saw the fact that she was a woman as kind of irrelevant. Yeah, and hopefully most people do. Today, some people look back at her and say, "Oh, she was very feminist because she's talking about how, you know, women should focus in society and stuff." But that was never her intention. She just always just assumed that she was a person writing about person things. Gender didn't really come into it. So there you go, which is kind of cool. There you go. That's yeah. So she's a feminist who isn't not identified as a feminist, and that's interesting, of course, because she lived, and a lot of her writing was done through the 1960s, which is like the peak of feminism, especially in New York where she was, and into the 70s. So she was alive at the peak of the feminist movement, or at least that wave of the feminist movement. But she never saw herself as part of that. No, Raina, she wasn't non-binary. She was a woman. She just didn't think that was important when it came to philosophy. What does it matter what gender you are? We're talking about totalitarianism, the death of modernity, and the fading away of history. Whether I've got a boob or not makes no difference, I think was her basic thought. Yeah. What was she doing in the US? She was teaching in universities. So she, after the war, she got to the USA before the war got really bad in France, and then she taught in university for the rest of her life until she died in 1975, halfway through a series of 3 books. There you go. Who knows what the last one would have been written about? But there you are. Yeah, she died as an old woman after a very, very successful life, or at least well, I hope a happy life. It's hard to tell. So let's go to our last point that's going to lead to the problems with modernity. So animal laborans is what she calls this. She died at 69. There you go. 69 she died. Oh. And that's how old she was. She died in 1975. So yeah, there are 3 ways that people can find importance. Let's put it that way, I think. That Arendt put forward. We've got the Homo faber, man as the maker. We've got the Zoon politikon, which is the social, the social animal, political animal, I suppose. Yeah, political. And then you've got the animal laborans, which is the working animal, a beast of burden, a working creature. So we'll take each of them one by one, and we'll see. I'd like to see which ones of these you think would be most important. So the concept of Homo faber is showing the importance, within human society of things like permanence, stability, and durability. Having things that are reliable, that are sort of set in stone, so to speak. Making things, if we're talking about it on a literal sense, I'm going to make a dining table that is going to last for 100 years. I'm going to build a bridge that's going to stand for 1,000 years. I'm going to build, I don't know, a toy doll that 3 generations of children can play with, or whatever. Everything's built to last. Everything is stable. Everyone knows what's going on, and there's a sense of permanence and solidity. Yeah, to that. That's the idea of Homo faber, man the maker. Then you've got Zoon politikon, the political animal. And this is the importance of freedom in society. So people being free to say what they want, do what they want, believe what they want. You're going to make a robot that lasts forever and takes over the world. Interesting, Raiden. That's good. That's good Homo faber. We've got plurality, which means people being able to have different ideas from each other. You can have people from different religions. You can have Muslims alongside Jewish people and Christians and Hindus and all that. You can have people who believe in one form of government or another working together. You can have plurality of, I don't know, gender or sexuality or whatever you want it to be. But that comes with solidarity, an idea that, yes, we can all be different and we can all be free to be how we are, but we can stand together, shoulder to shoulder, and we can make a united front in the world through politics. And that doesn't just mean through politics as in who runs the country and stuff, but, in each of our tiny little communities, we can have political unity. We can act together as groups. And then you've got animal laborans, the importance of work for its own sake, the idea that people just do a job and they do it. And, say you've got a certain task, I don't know, make 500 hubcaps today in the hubcap factory. Okay, we work and we make 500 hubcaps. That's the importance in life, yeah? Our task is to, I don't know, train hard and win the next 3 3 football games. Cool, we'll do that. We'll train hard. We'll win the next 3 football games. The job is go milk a cow. Nice, Oliver. Yeah, so you go out and you milk the cow. And that's where we find value. Yeah. So the question is, which of these 3 do you think, in the audience there, which of these 3 do you think should be the most important function of life? Should it be the homo faber, the permanent stability and durability, solid social systems and physical things that are built to last? Zoon politikon, which is the political animal working together, or animal laborans, the importance of doing work and getting it done. Okay, so let's see. So Hamza's going for animal laborans. We've got 1 for Zoom politikon. 5 Zoom coins. What's that written? So far we've got 1 vote for animal laborans, and we've got 1 vote for Zoom politikon. Any others before I? We got another 1 for animal laborans. Ooh. We've got 1 for homo faber. Thank you, Anya. It's interesting. I wonder what Hannah Arendt is going to say. All right, so it looks like animal laborans just. We got another 1 for politikon. Thank you. Thanks, Raiden. So yeah, we seem to be split then on Zoom politikon or animal laborans. Now, animal laborans is an important thing put together by Karl Marx. What is the value in life? The value is working as part of what would one day become communism, I suppose. Whereas homo faber is, I don't know where homo faber originates from. And Zoom politikon, I think, is one of our own sort of phrases that she coined. But here's a quote from Arendt, which might help us understand which one she thinks is most important. So the only activity that goes on directly between men without the intermediary of things or matter are the important things in life. Yeah, that's what real action is. So to her, action was when people do things together. It was not when people do things related to objects in any way. Yeah. So Susie, yeah, there we go. So laborans was Karl Marx's phrase, and she uses it. Another German philosopher, but a lot earlier in history, or a bit earlier in history, I suppose. Depends on the wide sweep of history. So what Arendt believes is that really Zoom politikon, with a certain dose of homo faber, is the most important. Yeah, we should be people working together. But that's not just blindly doing what we're told. And that's kind of the difference, I suppose, that Raiden was asking about earlier. If we're all in a community where we're all sort of thinking the same way, we have this, collective consciousness, then Raiden's very good argument was that, well, can't Hitler just come along and take hold of that community and tell you what to do? But Arendt would say no, because if we live in a healthy place where people are political animals, then we can be different and we can have different ideas, but we can still have solidarity. We can still work together. We can make a world that works. Oh, Raiden. Oh, sorry, Raiden. I always say Raiden. There you go. Now I know. So yeah, we can work together and we can make the world better that way. What we shouldn't be doing, says Arendt, is focusing so much on objects. Because when we focus on objects, so animal laborers is like the worst one here for her. When we're just focusing on work for its own sake, what if our job is not great? What if our job actually creates bad things? And if we're putting value in just getting jobs done for the sake of getting jobs done, then we can be led astray. And her probably best example of that is coming next. But her argument is that animal laborans has basically squashed the other two. Yeah, homo faber has gone. Yeah, we don't build to last anymore. The whole idea of the death of history says that actually, we're not interested in stability and durability anymore. We also, she says, in the 20th century, are not free. We're not practicing plurality. We're not getting on with other people from other ethnicities or religions or genders or whatever. And there is no solidarity. So that's gone. And instead, all that's left in her sort of dystopian present that she lived in was animal labyrinths, people doing jobs because those jobs are the things that they're supposed to do. And they just kind of do them. And they feel a sense of achievement when they've done the job at the end of the day. And they've lost sight of everything else. There we go. Oh, it's pretty grim. And so this all comes together. Oh, have I lost that? Oh, it's gone funny. Gone funny. There you go. This all comes together with the banality of evil. So here we've got a photograph of some people having a great time. Oh, yeah. Did she come up with Homo faber? I don't think so. I think that's from the Latin. I think they're all based on Latin, but I think that's like an older phrase than she did, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, so here we've got a happy bunch of people. We've got a guy with an accordion. They're all sort of, I don't know, well, they just look like a happy bunch of people, don't they? This is a group of people who are on a little holiday. They're just on a break from their job. You know, they're all work colleagues, and you can see they're all kind of young and fresh and happy looking people. The first time you've seen a happy black and white photo, oh, Oliver, I'm about to ruin it. This group of people here are a group of staff members from the Auschwitz concentration camp. Their job every day is to torture, brutalize, and murder thousands and thousands of people. Yeah, that's less fun, Imogen. Yeah, I pulled the switcheroo on you there. But the point of this photo is that, you know, you wouldn't look at this photo. I'm assuming you didn't look at this photo and think, oh, these are evil people. These are monsters. They don't look like monsters at all. You know, they look like happy men and women. Why are they so happy? Because of what we've just talked about. Yeah, sorry, Brett. You've been into this rodeo before. What they're doing is that they're bringing together everything that Hannah Arendt has talked about. Yeah. What do we do when we have lost our sort of shared sense of consciousness? Well, we start misunderstanding what is objectively good and evil, because there is no objective good and evil anymore, because we're not part of a world consciousness that tells us what good and evil is. So we're kind of left a little bit loose there. What happens when we have disassociated with the Earth, the planet that we're on? Well, if we're the kind of people who can live on a planet and not really think twice about chopping down a tree or burning some chemicals or throwing some plastic in the ocean, then, you know, do we really care about our fellow man? Can that happen? Then we've got the idea of the social. Yeah. You know, what is our public? What is our private persona? What's important in life? Well, important in life is, I don't know, showing off in front of our friends and making some money. Yeah. So that leaves us in a bit of a strange place. And then we hit the jackpot that leads to something like this, or, you know, the Holocaust or whatever, in Ardent's opinion, because we say, well, what is the, you know, what is our focus in life? Is it on being social, political people who have plurality and good ideas with each other? No, we've got rid of that. We've got rid of Zootpolitiken. What does it, you know, do we care about having things, setting up systems, building to last, having stability? No, because we've got rid of Homo fabius. We're done with that. What's left? Well, our animal labor. These guys have a job to do. They do it. They don't think about it because they're just doing a job. Yes, their job is working in a concentration camp and doing terrible things, but how can they be happy? Because this is what Arendt is telling you. She's saying, look, they're just so unhinged. They're not evil. They're not like monsters. You would meet, you know, you go out into Berlin or wherever with any of these people and you'd have a wonderful evening and it would be great. But something's missing in the world. Yeah. They go to work and they do a job and they think that doing their job is fine because they've been told to do a job. Now, their job happens to be exterminating people. That makes no difference. It doesn't matter. Once you've lost all of those important building blocks in a society, a sense of history, shared collective responsibility, political responsibility, when you've blurred the lines between private and public, and all you care about is getting a job done, then there's no difference between working in a concentration camp, killing people, and working in a chip shop, serving up fish and chips. Because we've lost it. We've lost what was important. And that's how you get people, normal people, doing terrible, terrible things. And so in her book, Eichmann, about one of the leaders of the concentration camps, she shocked everyone. And remember, she's Jewish, yeah? This is her life, this is her history. But she's saying how he wasn't a special dude. He wasn't, nor was Hitler, nor was Stalin. They're just people who see that they've got a job to do. What's Hitler's job? Well, someone needs to run this country. I'll do that. We'll make sure that, step one on my list of things to do, let's kill all the Jewish people, let's invade Poland, let's conquer France. And he just kind of does it because there's no question of morality there, because everything's so banal. Wow. So yeah, if you find okay, so and that's her argument. Now you may not agree with it. It's more comfortable, perhaps, to say that actually Hitler and these people in this picture here, they're just monsters. They were born evil. They live. That they're a different kind of human. That's what they are. But Arendt would say you're missing the point. Then, Nazi Germany contained millions of people. They weren't all born evil. It can't make any sense, can it? So instead, we've got to say that it's a function of the society that they're living in that's the problem. Yeah, what about that person, Hamza? It's a bit scary, isn't it, Ryden? It really is. It is scary. But that's what Arendt is trying to show us, and that's what I'm trying to come up with today. That's sort of where we've been leading. Why is it that good people do bad things, or just people in general do bad things? And her argument here is that if the society that you live in focuses everything on how well have you done your job, how well have you managed to make money, and then you lose fact of what's truly important, and you can end up doing monstrous things. So there you go. I don't know, they all seem to be smiling quite broadly there, Hamza. So let's not end there, because that's dark. Hey, welcome to Philosophy with Jake. No, we're going to end positively, because there is positivity to be taken out of this. Yes, says Arden, we have lost our connection to each other. We've lost our connection to the planet, or at least we're losing it. And yes, we are in a place where, because we're so lost, we just sort of end up blindly following orders. And it comes, back to Imogen's example from the beginning there of the experiment that they did after the war, where people were electrocuting each other because they were told to. And these people, they were normal people. They were just students and volunteers brought in, at random. And it turned out that a lot of them, when told by a man in a white coat with a clipboard to give fatal electrocutions to people they couldn't even see, they could just hear their screams, they would just do it. Yeah, just like someone in a concentration camp may just turn on the gas chamber or whatever. They just do it. They're told to do it. It's their job. That's what's important in life, doing your job. And that's dangerous, or it can be. So the good news is that if everything's rubbish, if the modern world has lost so much, there is hope there. Because what we can do, says Arden, is we can look at the past with eyes that are not limited or constrained by the past, and we can take what's important and we can rebuild. We can make a whole new world. See what I did there? There's Aladdin and Jasmine, a whole new world. Boom. And that's the positive part. Hitler didn't win, Stalin didn't win, both their regimes have ended. And maybe in the future, we can decide what from our common human past is important, and we can build up a new, stable world. Thanks, Izzy, to live on. Disney's men don't have lips. It's just people wearing lipstick. I suppose so. So there you go. Let me catch up with the chat before we finish. So Ryden here is saying that, in his opinion, the way that people turn evil is either through trauma or being misled and brainwashed. So yeah, I would say that it's about how vulnerable you are to being misled and brainwashed. And if you've lost everything, if you don't understand, what's right, what's wrong, if you have no clear, solid moral compass, because society has taken that away for loads of different reasons. We haven't really gone into the reasons that she talks about as to why modernity has broken down and the steps that led to that. But she wrote about that extensively. If we're in that position, then we're easily sucked in by someone who comes along saying, hey, look, I've got an idea and I've got something that's definitely true and I've got a way to live and I've got a really important job for you to do and focus on. And people go along with that, and that's dangerous. That's what leads to concentration camps and gulags and all that kind of stuff. Now that's yeah, this is good. So Imogen is talking now, as we all are, from how long has it been? 25, 45 years since she died. And you could argue that the world isn't getting better, that we haven't fixed these problems, or that they're not fixing, or that maybe they're unfixable. I don't know. Or you could look at it more positively and say, well, we haven't had a massive sort of Western dictator like Hitler and Stalin. So maybe we have learned from it. But the environmental way that we're going doesn't seem to be great. We're certainly, I think it's just so funny that we call the thing that lots of people do social media, when that's exactly what Arendt was warning about. Let's not be social. Let's be people in meaningful relationships and communities. Let's not just be social creatures that flit around. And that's exactly what we've doubled down on. But no, sorry, it is pretty negative, isn't it, Oliver? Positivity, whole new world, Aladdin and Jasmine. We can build something new, because that's the plus side of modernity being broken. Yeah, we can fix it and we can make it better than it ever was before. So I tell you what, since you're the young generation, you guys can handle that. Whilst I go and have a cup of tea, I think. So yeah, you guys work on fixing modernity, please. Generation Z, let's do this. Yeah, that's it. So Bray says, when someone like Arden has explained the problem, all we have to do is fix it. That's it. Oh, Bray, that's true. I am part of the consciousness. Darn. I was going to go and, oh, yeah, all right. I'll help out. That'll be fine. That's cool, right? Yeah, that's good. So riding somewhere in the middle, not completely going with Arden, but not completely against either, and that's brilliant. That's what this is about. Hopefully, it's given something to think about. And of course, as always, all I've done is scratch the surface. I've tried to sort of hone in on one very specific part of Arden's philosophy today. But there's a lot out there for you to read, both her own works and works talking about her and criticizing her, which is always valuable. So yeah, there you go. Generation Z's got TikTok, so they're actually going to fail harder. Yeah. Living in the social. Nice. All right. Thank you very much, guys. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye. Thanks.